Yeah. So you're a single parent, right? I bet you don't have much money. Just wait your turn, all right. Back up, back up.
When I went to the bank with my son, Tyler, to withdraw some money, the bank employee, noticing I was a single parent, looked down on us. And then, to make matters worse, we were made to wait for hours. Just when I was about to lose my temper, Tyler whispered,
If we withdraw the $8 billion we have deposited, we could shut this place down, right?
That brought a sly smile to both our faces. My name is Sherry. I live with my husband, Rick, and our son Tyler, who just started kindergarten. I met Rick during our college days. Back then, I was busy studying for law school. Rick, who was studying at the medical school of T University, was also busy with his clinical rotations. We both joined the singles party just for a break from studying, but little did we know that this casual encounter would define our lives. We hit it off and exchanged numbers that day, and by the next week, we were studying together in the library. My university was a national one, so the tuition was affordable, but I needed to save up for law school as I was aiming to take the bar exam. Rick, busy with medical school, couldn't do much part-time work either, so his wallet wasn't exactly full. Our dates were mostly studying together at the library or at each other's homes and occasionally grabbing lunch, but I cherished every day spent with Rick. 4 years passed, and in my final year of law school, I passed the bar exam. Rick also successfully passed his medical licensing exam. And once our training periods were over, we got married. For a while, we were both busy working as a rookie lawyer and a doctor. Our jobs were so demanding that we couldn't even keep our house in order. It was always a mess. I wanted to cook nutritious meals for Rick, but with just my job alone, I couldn't manage. There were many times when our trash bags were filled with frozen food packages and empty lunch boxes. No matter how much I neglected housework, Rick never complained, but he was also too busy to help. I rarely stayed up all night, but Rick, being a doctor, often had to work nights. It felt like we had been running together ever since our intense study days. A decade into our marriage, we were blessed with a child. The law firm I worked for said, "We don't want you to quit. We'll keep paying your lawyer registration fees even while you're on leave. Please come back once childcare settles down." However, Rick, who was still immersed in his demanding job, also hoped for this, so I decided to put a pause on my career as a lawyer. I waited until my cases settled down before leaving the law firm. Then, time started to move surprisingly slowly. I could finally focus on our home, our soon-to-arrive baby, and Rick. Life shifted from being hectic to having time to care for our household. Our child was born, and we named him Tyler. Tyler was a bright kid. By the age of 2, he could read and write all letters in the alphabet. By the time he started kindergarten, he could read an analog clock and would start reading the news on the computer with Rick. On our way to and from kindergarten, he would explain the news to me. I was astonished by his rapid growth, but Rick just smiled and said, "I think it's normal." According to Rick's mom, Rick was the same as a child. But perhaps the peak of my life was those peaceful years spent as a stay-at-home mom, raising young Tyler by Rick's side. When Tyler was 5, in winter, our family went skiing. It was a beautiful sunny morning, perfect for skiing, but in the evening, just as we were about to head home, the weather turned bad. As we were hurrying back, Rick said, "I see something like a hat in the snow off the course. Someone might have fallen. I'll go check." I had a bad feeling, but knowing Rick, who worked in emergency medicine and always put saving lives first, he couldn't just ignore it if someone was in trouble. So I didn't stop him. If only I had insisted he stay. But it's too late for regrets now. As Rick approached the snow pile, a fierce blizzard hit, blocking our view. I was doing my best to protect young Tyler in my arms. And when our vision cleared, Rick was nowhere to be seen. The rescue team arrived quickly, but Rick, who had lost his breath and body warmth to the snow, had already passed away. I couldn't even cry. Under the fearfully blue winter sky that had cleared again, I stood frozen, holding Tyler. Rick, who had just been laughing and skiing with us, was no longer there. All the memories from when we met until now raced through my mind like a flickering slideshow. Rick was earnest, intelligent, and always straightforward. In front of my stunned self, Tyler did not cry.
Dad tried to help the person who lost their hat, right?
In front of the lost hat, 5-year-old Tyler understood everything. Yes, he did try to help. Lost for words, I was tightly hugged by Tyler.
Mom, I will help you. I will protect you.
From then on, a huge void opened in my heart. Tyler, true to his words at that time, stayed by my side, smiling, helping out with his little hands, and gently asking, "Are you okay, Mom?" He tried his best to protect me. But I realized that it was my responsibility to truly protect young Tyler. Now, without Rick, who was always with us, it's my duty to protect Tyler. This realization filled me with an indescribable fear of the unknown future. Rick, having been a doctor, left us with some inheritance. But Tyler was only 5 years old. I couldn't predict how much money would be needed in the future. Considering his intelligence, he might want to become a doctor like Rick. But the inheritance wouldn't cover the cost of medical school. I wished I could immediately return to working as a lawyer, but balancing a full-time job while raising young Tyler seemed daunting. I wanted to at least work part-time to earn some living expenses, but my health had deteriorated since Rick's passing, making even that impossible, and I felt anxious seeing our savings account dwindling day by day.
Don't worry, Mom. I will protect you. I'll grow up fast and it's all gonna be okay.
Tyler's reassuring hugs were my only solace. Since he quickly read through any book I gave him, constantly buying new ones would be expensive. So, we frequented the local library, allowing him to read plenty of books. By the time Tyler graduated from kindergarten, he had become proficient in writing foreign languages typically learned in high school. Learning foreign languages expanded the range of books he could read. Tyler, devouring books of all genres, had become much more knowledgeable in various subjects than I, who only knew about the law. Amid a life at rock bottom, having lost my loving husband and with no one to rely on, Tyler's growth was the only ray of light. Years passed, and Tyler turned 9. His passion for reading books remained unchanged, but there was a big change in my life. When Tyler entered 4th grade, I returned to work as a lawyer. I had always loved my job as a lawyer and had a decade of experience from my 20s, working tirelessly. A month after returning, I got back into the swing of things and was able to handle my work. By this time, my health, which had often faltered since losing Rick, had finally stabilized, and the nightmares that woke me up in the middle of the night had lessened. Still, balancing my job as a lawyer with household chores was challenging. I was barely managing the bare minimum, like preparing meals and doing laundry for Tyler. I had no time for myself. My makeup routine was just hurriedly applying foundation in the office bathroom in the morning. At night, I often fell asleep without removing my makeup, and my wardrobe was limited to suits for work and a few old casual clothes, making me look much older than I was. I even declined a college reunion invitation, feeling embarrassed about my current state, and returned home with a heavy heart that day. When I opened the door, I found Tyler sitting in front of a brand new computer, his eyes sparkling. "Tyler, what's with the computer?"
I won this. Remember the quiz show I participated in on TV? I kept it a secret until the broadcast, but I won. And this computer was the prize. Cool, right?
"You won? You should have told me sooner. That's amazing, Tyler, just like your dad." I hugged Tyler, sparkling with excitement. This computer marked the beginning of a new phase in Tyler's life. A year had passed since he received the computer as a prize from the quiz competition. Since that day, Tyler spent almost all his time at home on the computer. At first, I helped him with the operations, but that was only for a day or two. Then, he started buying specialized books from bookstores, rapidly absorbing knowledge. He was always quick at reading, and now that I was working, I could afford to buy him many books. Tyler's study desk quickly became filled with books on programming languages. I had only focused on law, so I knew nothing about computer development languages like Java or C++. Seeing Tyler so immersed and shining in this field made him seem almost otherworldly to me, as if he wasn't my own child. "Rick, Tyler seems to have inherited your knack for the sciences." I caught myself talking to the night sky. Sometimes Tyler would read my old college books too. Thinking about his future, I no longer felt the terror I had right after losing Rick. Tyler would carve his own strong path in life and society. I was sure of it. Every year on Rick's death anniversary, we always visit his grave, and this year was no different. While walking to the bank to withdraw money for Tyler's new computer, a man suddenly bumped into me from behind, causing me to nearly lose my balance and fall. The man who bumped into me was wearing an unusually glossy long coat and had a tacky oversized watch that he was flaunting. He then callously threw a comment over his shoulder. "Move it, you're in the way." "What the?" I almost blurted out a complaint, but I held back, remembering that today was Rick's death anniversary, and I wanted to avoid any trouble or foul language.
Mom, are you okay?
Tyler asked, coming over. I hugged him tightly. "Thank you, I'm fine. How about you, Tyler? That must have startled you."
Yay, maybe that man was in a hurry, but I can forgive him for bumping into Mom.
"Oh, you're so kind, Tyler. But don't worry, I'm okay."
Welcome. How may I assist you today?
When we arrived at the bank, we were greeted with such a warm smile that it blew away the unpleasant feelings from earlier. The receptionist, Cindy, as her nameplate read, listened to our needs, quickly prepared some paperwork, and handed us a number.
We're a bit busy today, so there might be a short wait. Please have a seat on the sofa over there.
We sat down on the sofa provided.
Wait, Mom, isn't that person?
Tyler exclaimed in surprise when someone was called out from the counter. Oh yay! I couldn't help but exclaim. At the counter, the man who had bumped into me earlier was sitting there.
Give me those papers.
The bank clerk at the counter received our documents with an attitude that seemed like he didn't even consider us as customers.
I'll proceed with the procedures. Just wait at your seat.
After scribbling on the documents, he handed them back as if shooing us away. What? I really wanted to complain, but I held it back. It's Dad's death anniversary today. We shouldn't argue, I said with a smile to Tyler.
What? So you are a single parent and a son, right? People like you guys should wait their turn.
I was shocked to hear such unbelievable words coming from behind. It was indeed the voice of the bank clerk from earlier. Tyler was also standing there with his mouth gaping. Tyler, don't worry about it. Let's read a book. Patting his shoulder and taking out a book I had brought. Tyler looked visibly upset, but he nodded and started reading his book. However, no matter how long we waited, our number wasn't called. At first, I thought it was because it was busy, but as I looked around, other customers who seemed to have arrived after us were being called and served. I thought it might be a misunderstanding, but it wasn't. An elderly man who had arrived just after us and sat on the sofa next to us finished his procedures and left. Then, a man who was businessman looking, seemed to have come after we started reading our books, also completed his procedures and left.
Mom, let's be good today. If it's Dad, he would have waited quietly.
Stopped me as I was about to stand up to complain. You're right, I replied with a wry smile, opening my book again. It's ironic that I, the mother, am being reminded by her son, Tyler. And so, we waited for nearly 3 hours. Even Tyler, usually so patient, started to get irritated as our number still hadn't been called. Tyler, I'll go ask. Don't worry, I'll be polite. I won't do anything Dad would dislike. Tyler thought for a moment and then nodded. Excuse me, we're number 57. We've been waiting for almost 3 hours. I approached the counter, trying to keep my irritation in check, and asked as politely as possible.
What? 3 hours? So what? It's busy? People like you, poor folks, are always last?
The poor folks.
Yeah, you're a single parent, right? You probably don't have much money anyway, so just wait and go back to your seat.
What? You're changing the order of service based on that. I was about to retort, forgetting the promise I made to Tyler, when suddenly I felt a tap on my back. Turning around, there was Tyler, grinning broadly.
Mom, what happens to this bank if we withdraw all the $8 billion we have deposited here?
What are you talking about? 8 billion? Dream on, kid.
I couldn't bear it anymore when they started mocking Tyler too, just as I was about to speak out. Suddenly, The branch manager burst out of the back room with great urgency. It seemed like Cindy had relayed the message, as I could see her emerging from behind the branch manager.
Jimmy, what are you saying?
Branch manager.
Jimmy, the bank clerk, looked startled.
Jimmy, how dare you speak to our customers like that?
But, branch manager, these people are.
These people are Miss Johnson and her son, who have been favoring our bank with their business.
At that moment, Jimmy showed an expression of unmistakable surprise.
This lady, Miss Sherry Johnson. I had no idea. I mean,
Miss Johnson, I am deeply sorry for the rudeness of our staff member, Jimmy, and for the long wait for your transaction. Please come this way.
Assuring us into a private room.
We are terribly sorry for the inconvenience.
Upon entering the room, Cindy brought us warm green tea and small sweets, and a staff member other than Jimmy promptly proceeded with our paperwork. In fact, there is a deposit of $8 billion in this branch under my name. Of course, it's not money I earned as a mere lawyer. Tyler, utterly fascinated by computers and app development, struck gold with a game which he and his friends created. I had established a company under my name, where the money was deposited. Tyler's teammates, mostly graduate students and freelance engineers, played a role in the development. But it was Tyler, still in elementary school, who handled the main part of the development. App development doesn't end with the release. It requires maintenance and frequent updates, which Tyler primarily handles. Whenever simple legal knowledge was needed during development, he would read my law books to address it. Tyler, even as a child, has completely relieved me of financial worries and even gifted me with dreams. He mostly managed the deposits by himself. However, since bank transactions are mostly done online, we seldom visit the bank in person. Moreover, I usually stop by the bank in the middle of work, dressed in formal suits. Also today, we wore casual attire, so that's why Jimmy didn't recognize me. Perhaps he is new to this branch or simply not used to seeing unfamiliar faces. Regardless, it's outrageous and highly disrespectful to treat customers differently based on their appearance. We requested the branch manager to retrain Jimmy for the sake of other customers, and then left the bank. At the cemetery, I talked to Rick's grave about today's events with Tyler. Unlike me, who tends to complain, Tyler always remains calm and subtly supports me. I also talked about the game app again, which I've been doing every visit. Rick, Tyler's game, it's been half a year after its release, and is still gaining subscribers. Every time we release new skins or items, they have the best sales record. Tyler wrote the main codes for all of them.
But I can't draw, so Mary does all the art.
Tyler said happily. He loves computers and books so much, and it makes him difficult to make close friends at school. So working with his older teammates, helping each other to create something, must be especially enjoyable for him. He told me, I can't discuss coding with my school friends, but with my development team, I can talk about even the most complex topics. He's even studying a new language now. As I reported with a smile, Tyler happily waved his hand and said, Dad, I'll definitely protect Mom.
It was really hard when you left us, but it made me want to work harder to protect Mom. That's why I thought of making an app. and got motivated to write better code and study more. I feel like I am who I am today because of you, Dad.
Tyler,
When I grow up, I want to help people who lost their partners, just like Mom did.
Tyler declared in front of Rick's grave. He studied hard in middle and high school, keep maintaining top grades, and went on to the School of Pharmacy at the same university as Rick. He passed the bar exam and the medical licensing exam while still in university. Tyler passed the national medical exam at the same time as his graduation. His achievement of passing both the bar and medical exams garnered media attention, sparking speculation about whether he would pursue a career in medicine or law. However, it seemed he had always planned to continue with the company he started. The company, which he founded in elementary school through the development of a game app, had been mostly inactive after middle school, but he decided to restart it in earnest after graduating from university. He then made a conscious effort to employ single parents at his company. I also left the law firm where I worked and joined Tyler's company as the legal affairs manager. I was thrilled to use the knowledge and experience I gained over the years as a lawyer in my son's company. Moreover, due to the company's policy of employing many single-parent, overtime work was basically prohibited. This allowed me to return home on time every day and slowly take care of household chores. Although I love legal work, having time to relax and focus on my personal life also seemed necessary. About a year after Tyler restarted the company, he mentioned that Cindy, the woman who had helped us at the bank that day, had come for a job interview. It had been over a decade, but the moment they met, both instantly recognized each other with a, "It's you," from that time. Apparently, the rude bank employee, Jimmy, was fired after the incident. Cindy, who had been harassed by Jimmy and had already submitted her resignation, also left the bank. Since then, as a single parent with a daughter, she had faced many challenges, but those days finally came to an end. Cindy, always considerate and capable, became an indispensable executive secretary at Tyler's company. Tyler, Cindy, her daughter, and I go out for dinner once a month. When the alcohol starts to hit, Tyler often says, "Truth is indeed stranger than fiction and the most exciting." It seems that Tyler, who never had any romantic rumors, had even invited Cindy's daughter to dinner. She also seemed surprisingly interested in him. Life is truly unpredictable. Today, as I headed home in the sunset after work, I spoke to Rick in my heart. "Rick, please continue to watch over Tyler and me." Then, it felt like the first star twinkled in response.
Wearing my brand new suit, I was sweating heavily. Each word from the interviewer was utterly simple, yet being under such scrutiny made my mouth move as if it belonged to someone else.
Why didn't you think about going to college?
That's because, I wanted to spend that time on programming.
So you just wanted to do what you like, right?
The intellectual interviewer snorted and said that. I had no response. Just a sense of regret and humiliation came over me. "I'm sorry." As I apologized quietly, the interviewer said with a look of disdain,
Incompetent people are not accepted. You may leave now, please.
I couldn't even submit the detailed documents of the software I had developed and brought with me, too scared of what had transpired. Incompetence remains incompetence after all. I hung my head, greeted the interviewer, and left the room. My job hunt was proving to be a tough journey. That's what I thought until that moment. My name is Michael Johnson, and I'm 21 years old. In middle school, I got hooked on programming after playing around with a computer belonging to my uncle.
If that's what Michael decides, then it's fine by us.
My parents adored me and didn't scold me when I told them I wouldn't be going to college after high school. I'm a baby in my parents' eyes. It doesn't matter how old I get. While it seemed like my friends were all going through rebellious phases and clashing with their parents, I could never bring myself to strongly oppose my kind parents. Perhaps as a reaction, whenever I felt discontent, I'd throw myself into programming with a passion. When I was in front of my computer, I'd become utterly absorbed. All my worries would vanish, and I'd be filled with hope and exhilaration. The fewer days I went to school, the more I dove into programming every day. That's how I started creating simple games and social networking sites. Whenever an idea came to me, I'd try to create it on the spot. I continued living like that for a while. Every time I received feedback from users on my projects, I felt validated in my efforts. I'm not sure what kind of job I'll end up in, but if I could continue doing this, it would be my dream come true. This is my calling. That day too, I woke up past noon, having skipped school. I turned on my computer even before putting on my glasses. As soon as it finished booting up, I sat up, still tousled from sleep, and peered at the screen. Then, I saw an email had arrived. The moment I saw the sender, my body tensed, and I broke out in a sweat. This can't be real, a prank or a mistake. My sleepiness vanished instantly, and I decided to go downstairs to the living room to calm down.
Good morning, Michael. Do you want for breakfast? I was thinking of preparing lunch in about 30 minutes.
My mom, nibbling on some crackers while reading the newspaper, and my dad, clipping his nails on the porch. Looking out the window, I saw a plane floating in the cloudless sky.
Hey, Michael, it's a nice day again today.
My dad, with his hair streaked with gray, turned around and smiled. I used to be told I looked like my mom, but lately, it seems I've started to resemble my dad. Mom, I'll pass on breakfast. Can I get a coffee? Mom smiled warmly and headed to the kitchen, humming a tune. Even as I waited for my coffee, I couldn't stop thinking about that email. I'm just going to the bathroom. Leave the coffee for me. I decided I had to check it again. Without waiting for my mom's response, I dashed up the stairs to my room. I hurried to my computer and read the email again carefully. It was indeed from a well-known Japanese IT company that I recognized. The email was written in more polite English than I'd use. Can't be real. They wanted to buy my site, which I released 2 years ago, dedicated to a nerd community. It's a social site dedicated to the nerd community. I had noticed an increase in foreign users recently, but was it becoming popular overseas too? The email mentioned they wanted to discuss directly. My mind was completely overwhelmed. Feeling dizzy, I decided to go back to the living room.
What's wrong, Michael? You look pale. Do you have a stomach ache?
It's not that. Something big has happened.
Something bad?
My mom, who had been reading the newspaper, looked at me worriedly. Actually, one Japanese company wants to buy my site.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
But it might be a scam.
You won't know unless you try.
That's right. Why don't you take a chance and contact them?
Despite my worries, my parents were surprisingly enthusiastic. That's the thing with people who hardly ever use computers. They don't understand. But encouraged by my parents' words, I decided to reply to the email. Later, when I was offered an unimaginable amount for the site and decided to sell, I was incredibly nervous. With that money, I bought the latest computer and all the essentials for programming. I also took my parents to a fancy restaurant and contributed to my dad's car purchase. It was the least I could do to show my appreciation to my parents, who tolerated my reclusive lifestyle. I was indebted to the Japanese company. However, life changed drastically in the fall. My dad passed away suddenly from a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Using my healthy dad so suddenly, my mom became deeply depressed. Of course, so did I.
Was that tough for you? So, does that mean you, Abbas, need to start exploring the outside world soon?
As a naive person, I talked to a friend I met on the internet who I didn't even know. Black Cat is the handle of the friend I connected with through a hobbyist online game. By the way, Abbas is my handle name. We mainly talk using chat, and from what I can tell, Black Cat is a man. Though I've never asked his age. He's probably older than me. Yo, it would be great if there's a company out there willing to hire me. Black Cat kindly encouraged me as I felt down.
You're trying things you've never done before. It's natural to struggle. Job hunting seems like a distant memory for me, but I'm always here to listen if you need me.
Online gaming reminded me that there are real people on the other side of the screen. His words warmed my heart, filled with nothing but anxiety about my suddenly changing circumstances. So, I received advice from Black Cat on how to write a resume, points to highlight about myself, and tips for the interview.
Well, it'd be great if Abbas had some standout achievements to brag about.
When prompted about achievements, I remembered the site I had sold to a Japanese company.
Why don't you bring some material that introduces the site?
Black Cat suggested this, advising me to keep the details vague to avoid revealing my identity. I see. If the company sees it, they might evaluate my skills. Following Black Cat's advice, I prepared the presentation materials. With my job search prep complete, I started attending interviews at several companies. Big corporations wouldn't even consider me without a college degree. So, I sent my resume to as many small companies as I could, but few were willing to interview a high school graduate with no formal experience. I hadn't attended a vocational school, and my programming skills were entirely self-taught. Plus, I was a recluse. If I were an employer, I wouldn't take a chance on someone with such high risks. Though I understood this, each rejection email made me feel more isolated from the world, as if a hole had opened up in my heart. I could live off the money from the site sale for a while, but I wanted to reassure my dispirited mom as soon as possible. My anxiety was growing. It was Black Cat who cheered me up during those anxious moments.
Our company is looking for programmers too. If things don't work out, come work with us.
I took it as a joke, but those words lifted my spirits. I didn't know where he lived or what his company was like. I'll count on you then. Such casual exchanges helped me calm down a bit. Even after getting rejected by many companies, I never gave up, and I was at another interview today. The company I was interviewing with today offered website and e-commerce site management services to local businesses. I applied because their job listing stated, "No experience necessary, programmers wanted."
Huh. So you spent the time you could have been in college on programming.
The interviewer today was the same as always, looking down on me with a disdainful attitude. His name tag read James.
So you've just been doing what you like, huh? What if you encounter something you dislike at our company? Are you just going to quit?
I scrambled to think of a response to James' words. As you've pointed out, I lack work experience. However, I have a strong foundation in programming and a strong desire to utilize it. I've come to your company's interview with the determination not to quit easily. I looked James straight in the eye and answered. Did I manage to convey that well? I was mentally celebrating, but James, looking at my resume, said,
But, you know, Michael, your track record is pretty bad. I can't find any compelling reasons to hire you.
But could you please take a look at this? I have experience creating my own website. Saying that, I tried to take out the presentation materials I'd prepared with Black Cat's advice from my bag. However, James chuckled at my actions.
What are you talking about? A no experience, no hire like you is a definite rejection. Please go home.
Thrown by his words, I didn't know how to respond and ended up apologizing meekly. I am sorry. James sneered at me and loudly said,
If you're going to apologize, then don't bother coming to an interview. What a complete waste of time.
Being yelled at out of the blue made me shrink even more. Finally, James offered a thin smile and recited his standard farewell.
Thank you for your time today. We will inform you of our decision in 2 to 3 days. Thank you.
After the interview, I couldn't bring myself to go straight home. I found myself aimlessly sitting in a park near the company until it gradually got dark. Again, it didn't go well again. Feeling my life was enveloped in darkness, I wondered if having gone to college would have given me more options for living, sparing me from such struggles. Of course, I knew it was futile to blame myself now. Feeling miserable about my pathetic self, I couldn't bear the thought of going home and facing my mom. I decided to at least send a message to Black Cat about the interview. He's probably going to be fed up with me by now. As tears threatened to spill, a pleasant aroma wafted into my nose. It was coming from a nearby pub. I wondered if it was normal for working people to stop by places like this after work. I wouldn't normally consider entering such a place, but I didn't want to be alone today. I wondered if it might lift my spirits and open the pub's door.
Hello, how many people?
The cheerful greeting made me timidly indicate I was alone. I was guided to a seat at the counter where it was relatively empty since it was still early. After receiving the menu from the staff, I ordered a few dishes. The simple, comforting flavors seemed to soothe my weary soul. As I was enjoying my meal alone, a pair of men were led to the seats next to me.
2 guests, right this way to the counter seats.
I glanced at the man who sat next to me. There was James, the interviewer I had met earlier in the day.
Hey, are you?
It seemed he remembered me as he initiated the conversation.
Do you know each other?
The man accompanying James asked, looking at me. The man, with a shaved side hairstyle and glasses, appeared older than James.
Yes, he came to our company for an interview today.
So you're into programming too, huh?
Yes, I am. I responded, but recalling the day's events made me unintentionally curt. Undeterred, the glasses-wearing man continued to engage me.
Did you study at a vocational school?
Come on, Tom. That almost sounds like another interview. His interview is already over.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
The man, referred to as Tom, apologized lightly. Well, I didn't pass anyway. I laughed self-deprecatingly.
Is that so, James?
When Tom asked, James smiled and said,
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a high school graduate with no work experience. Plus, he's self-taught in programming, and even mentioned making his own website.
Remembering the interview, I felt a tightness in my chest. However, upon hearing this, Tom unexpectedly said,
A website you created yourself? Can you tell me more about it?
Surprised by Tom's forwardness, I decided to show him the presentation materials I hadn't had the chance to present during the interview. Tom took it and looked over it with enthusiasm.
Is this the site you sold to a Japanese company?
James looked confused next to an excited Tom. The site I had sold was now a top-ranked, well-known site in Japan. It has grown from a nerd community site to a reputable social networking platform recognized in Japan. I couldn't hide my surprise at its success.
Anyone who has ever aspired to be a programmer would have heard of this story at least once, but I never imagined a person behind it would come to our company for an interview. What's your name?
Michael Johnson.
That's it, no doubt about it.
While Tom spoke excitedly, James looked visibly uncomfortable. Then Tom said to James,
You've rejected such a talented person. Just by looking at these materials, anyone could see what kind of person he is. What exactly are your criteria for interviews?
Oh no.
James went pale as Tom's intensity grew.
James, maybe you've been letting talented people slip through all this time. If that's the case, you're definitely getting fired.
Listening to their conversation, the company had consistently rejected applicants for programming positions despite advertising that no experience was necessary. Tom had been investigating why, suspecting James's intimidating interview tactics might be the cause. Indeed, making troubling statements and shouting insults could be considered a form of stress interview.
Your actions could tarnish the company's image. I'll be reporting this in tomorrow's executive meeting, so be prepared.
After Tom's intervention, James left the pub as if fleeing. Thanks to Tom, I was successfully hired. After completing a 3-month probation period, I would officially become a full-time employee. My self-taught programming skills were not in vain. However, as a newcomer both to the workforce and as a programmer, I am inexperienced. I'm grateful to my senior colleagues who are willing to teach me, and I aim to grow steadily in my role. As for James, he wasn't fired but was transferred to a different department. His domineering behavior had alienated his coworkers, so when Tom confronted him about the stress interviews, no one came to his defense. And then, something even more surprising happened.
Good evening, Abbas. Congratulations on a job.
Black Cat. Oh no, you're my boss. I never imagined we'd end up working together.
Come on, just talk to me like you always do.
I never guessed that Black Cat was actually Tom. It became clear as we talked at the pub, and this revelation was the most surprising of all. The decisive clue was the presentation materials I had made with Black Cat's advice. Tom was quite surprised when he saw them, as they were the ones we had discussed. I am glad that your offer to work with me if I could not find a job came true for me. When I replied that, in chat, Black Cat, rather, Tom responded,
Didn't I tell you, you would be fine?
I wonder how much this simple exchange has saved me. I typed my heartfelt thanks into the chat. Today, as I take my first steps as a working adult, I visited my dad's grave with my mom. In front of the grave, I reported to my dad that I had secured a job. I've been relying on you and Mom for so long. I'm sorry, but from now on, I'm going to do my best. As I murmured this, my mom, with tears in her eyes, hugged my shoulder.
Michael, whatever you decide, I'm sure your dad is supporting you from wherever he is. And so is your mom.
With the kindness of my parents in my heart, I resolved to repay them, even just a little, for all they've done for me.
What are you doing here? Poor people are out of place here.
Ronald, the sales director from Sunrise Systems, mocks us. Is the president of Henderson Industries out of place at a networking event for a system development company? Mike, the programmer next to me, is visibly annoyed. The company president's daughter Emily came close to Ronald and sneered at Mike, snorting disdainfully.
Subcontractors should head home.
Understood. I grabbed Mike's arm, who looked ready to retort, and forcefully led him away from the scene. This networking encounter is proving fruitful, as I'm now about to finalize a significant consultation.
So, you, Redwood Software, agree on an exclusive contract with our company.
Looking forward to working with you. To make this deal happen, I decided to terminate a $200 million contract with Sunrise Systems. We proceeded solemnly and all signed a contract together. My name is Thomas Henderson. I'm 42 and the president of Henderson Industries, a system development company. When talking about my background, my father's influence is indispensable. Henderson Industries, founded by my father, initially focused on developing computer software. At that time, with the release of Windows 95, personal computers rapidly spread throughout the U.S. Even before constant internet connectivity was established, my father was fervently using computers both at home and at work. He was incredibly tech-savvy, a man who could fix any machine around the house, a superman to me as a child. Naturally, I wanted to work in the computer field. Influenced by my father when choosing schools for college, after graduating from college, I gained experience at another IT company, In this industry, even younger people can lead projects. It's a world where you can fully express your youthful, flexible creativity. During this training period, I managed several projects and built confidence. At 35, when my father fell ill and entered a prolonged illness, I left a company I owed much to and took over as president of Henderson Industries. Although I was still an inexperienced president, I was supported by senior employees who had backed my father, and I am still doing my best. At home, I have a wife and a fifth-grade son, and I think our family relations are pretty good. My son is starting to show signs of adolescence, but both my wife and I are handling it well. My wife, a homemaker, manages our home so I can focus on work. Currently, our company mainly handles programming tasks ordered by Sunrise Systems. Essentially, Sunrise Systems is the main contractor, and Henderson Industries is the subcontractor. The relationship with Sunrise Systems dates back to my father's time, and I had great trust in them as a main contractor. The sales director was very affable and gentle, making it easy to work together. Not all main contractors respect their subcontractors. However, the sales director at Sunrise Systems was humble and respected our work as subcontractors. We both love watching and playing soccer, and we occasionally went to games together.
Let's gather the team and form our own soccer team. Thomas, sweating it out on your days off really clears your head.
That sounds great. Let's make it happen. Unfortunately, this plan never came to fruition. In the next personnel change, the longtime sales director at Sunrise Systems was replaced. The new sales director is Ronald Irvin. He's also 42 and graduated from a renowned university in New York. However, I rarely hear that he's competent. Actually, since Ronald became the sales director, work has not been going smoothly. First off, it's hard to get in touch with him, whether calling the office or his cell phone. It's rare that he answers himself. The sales department also doesn't keep track of where Ronald is, which is really problematic when there's urgent business. I have a long-standing relationship with Sunrise Systems and want to keep it cordial in the future, so I try inviting him to drinks, but I don't get a favorable response.
I'd rather not spend time with a subcontractor outside of work. I prefer to keep work and personal life separate.
As his words imply, Ronald sees us subcontractors as beneath them, disregarding our work and time, preferring to advance discussions only on his terms. It's always us who have to struggle to make time.
I want to meet early in the morning.
When Ronald says this, I wake up early and head to the specified location. There have been times when I've been called in the middle of the night. Somehow, I manage to adjust my schedule, but the projects he orders are fraught with issues. As a president, I am confident in the programs our company develops. Our employees are capable and have developed wonderful programs and systems. However, high-quality items inevitably take time to produce. Ronald does not understand this. It's impossible to deliver in such a short amount of time. Could we have a bit more flexibility with the deadlines?
You can even make this. Honestly, how long must I deal with such a useless subcontractor?
I'm not saying we can't make it. I'm saying we need more time. With the desire not to overburden my staff, I have repeatedly negotiated with Ronald, only to be looked down upon each time. Ever since I started dealing with Ronald, the days have been exhausting. My wife has noticed the change in me and has been very considerate, but it has seldom lifted my spirits. At Sunrise Systems, besides Ronald, there is another problematic person. It's Emily, the president's daughter. After graduating from a prestigious women's college in the city, Emily just hangs around without much direction. Perhaps because she is the only child, her father dotes on her, giving her a large allowance and letting her do as she pleases. If it doesn't affect our company, then there's no problem. I wouldn't mind her doing whatever she wants. However, Emily tends to meddle in our company's affairs. A significant reason for this is the presence of Mike Tyson, a 24-year-old genius programmer at our company. Since his student days, Mike has been a standout, winning ID contests. What path he would choose after graduation was of keen interest to the higher echelons of ID companies like ours. There were apparently offers from various companies. It included Sunrise Systems, but Mike declined them and joined our company instead. With such a talented person on board, our company's performance has significantly improved. Emily seems to have complicated feelings towards Mike. Since elementary school, Mike, who was called a prodigy in our area, was Emily's classmate through middle school. Mike, exceptionally bright and with a cosmopolitan allure, was popular among the girls. Emily was one of them and made several confessions to Mike. However, Mike showed no interest. It would have been better if Mike had shown no interest in any girl, but he went on to date a girl from another class. At that point, Emily's attitude changed. Being influential among the schoolgirls, Emily started harassing the girl Mike was dating. Mike was distressed, but still being a child, didn't know how to protect the girl. Ultimately, they broke up, which ended the harassment. Because of this history, Mike still harbors resentment towards Emily. There was an offer from Sunrise Systems before she graduated college, but he refused because it was run by Emily's parents. 9 years after graduating middle school, Mike and Emily still seem to carry the weight of their painful past. Sunrise Systems started taking a tough stance against our company after Mike joined. It required strict management and was quite exhausting. At that time, a networking event for system development companies, both large and small, within the state was organized. Feeling the limits of continuing to work as a subcontractor for Sunrise Systems, I decided to attend with our company's ace, Mike. The venue was a room at the hotel right next to our company. Mike uncomfortably tugged at a suit sleeve. Normally only wearing a t-shirt under a jacket, he didn't even know how to tie a tie. I tied it for him, and as we entered the venue, we were handed champagne glasses at the door. The buffet-style venue was bustling with excitement, and I got caught up in it too. Mike quickly grabbed a plate and started loading it with food. "Hey, don't take so much all at once. You won't be able to eat all that."
"Of course, I'll eat it all. Everything looks so tasty."
Mike is well known, so people from various companies' sales departments approached him, all wanting to tap into his expertise.
"Excuse me, I'm eating."
Mike waded through the crowd back to me. Then we caught the eye of the last person we wanted to see, Emily.
"Oh look, poor people really do load up their plates at a buffet. You guys are just so typical."
"Shut up, get lost."
"Such cheek from a subcontractor. You couldn't eat without the work my dad gives you."
We knew Emily's character well from our long association with Sunrise Systems. Find one mistake, and she'd make a huge fuss like she's caught a demon. Then Ronald, looking for Emily, came over.
"Ronald, look at this, the poor filling their plates like that. It's disgraceful."
"What are you doing here? Poor people really don't belong."
Ronald immediately started mocking us. "So, the president of Henderson Industries is out of place at the networking event." Mike by my side frowned. Emily came close to Ronald and sneered at Mike, snorting disdainfully.
"Subcontractors should head home."
Understood. I grabbed Mike's arm, which seemed ready to retort, and forcefully pulled him away from there. As I dragged Mike toward the exit, he protested.
"Why back down silently? Aren't you angry being spoken to like that?"
Just ignore such low-level people.
So, we don't have to deal with them anymore?
Not dealing meant not working together. But given our company's nature, we need to act as a subcontractor to some company. We have different roles, after all. Yet, I feel the same. I don't want to work with a main contractor who looks down on us just because we're subcontractors. At that moment, I felt a light tap on my shoulder and turned around. It was Kevin Redwood, the president of Redwood Software. A bit overweight due to a lack of exercise and with thinning hair, he had a presence of someone dignified, though he wasn't much older than me. His company, a rival to Sunrise Systems, has been rapidly growing and is the talk of the town lately. Kevin, like me, had taken over his company at a young age. We hadn't worked together much, but we shared a kindred spirit. He has a warm and approachable demeanor that makes people smile instantly upon greeting him, and I've never heard of him causing any trouble with his peers in the industry. I've always been interested in Redwood Software, but due to our relationship with Sunrise Systems, I hadn't been able to delve too deeply into discussions with him. I gave him a polite smile. Mike was zoning out, so I placed my hand on his head and pushed it down to make him smile as well. Thank you for your continued support. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Oh no, the pleasure is mine. But Thomas, are you leaving already?
No, that's not the case, I stammered. Kevin then spoke up again.
I heard about your talk with the director from Sunrise Systems. That means there might be a chance for us too. Could I possibly interest you in hearing about our proposal?
Let's go to the back. There are some chairs there where we can sit.
That sounds good.
And so, we moved 3 chairs close together in a corner of the venue and sat down.
Would you consider signing a contract with us? Your company is well known for the quality of its systems. We are planning a major new product and would really like you to be part of it.
I appreciate that. Depending on the details of the project, I would certainly like to consider it if we can be of help.
If we could team up with Henderson Industries, renowned for having the golden egg mic, the success of this major project would be nearly assured. We would very much like to contract with your company.
Mike seemed even more interested than I was. According to Kevin, if this project materialized, Mike's role would be significant. Truly, it would be a fulfilling job.
This project will also involve companies from India and South Korea. It will be a collaboration among 3 countries. We need to compete on a global scale to survive.
India and South Korea are advanced in IT, so interacting with people from these countries could open new worlds for our young employees. I'm already very interested. However, participating would mean we'd have to terminate the contract with Sunrise Systems, which would be our competitor. I was torn. We've been working with Sunrise Systems since my father's time. It's not easy to just cut them off, because we don't get along with the current sales director. If we continued the contract, it would be worth about $200 million. But this was a moment for a decision. What decided it was Mike's words.
I don't want to work for such people. Let's cut ties with Sunrise Systems.
You're right, Mike. Let's end it with Sunrise Systems, and please contract with our company.
Thank you very much. I expressed my appreciation again. Thanks to attending this networking event, a new world has opened up before us. Facing a large project spanning 3 countries, naturally, I feel more committed. Mike is all geared up and even urging me to sign a contract soon. Before signing a contract with Redwood Software, I had to terminate our contract with Sunrise Systems. Admittedly, my feelings were complex. I was about to sever a contractual relationship my father had worked hard to establish. Yet, I knew it was necessary to move forward. Sunrise Systems would face a total loss of $200 million if they terminated our contract. It would be impossible for any other company to deliver programs of the same quality as ours as a subcontractor. But that was not my concern. A week later, Everything was prepared, and we were about to finalize a major business deal. That morning, I called Sunrise Systems to cancel all our contracts. The employee who answered the phone panicked and said they would transfer me to a manager and asked me to wait. Not again. Waiting for a call back that never comes. I thought to myself, enough is enough. So, you ignore us all this time. And now when I want to cancel the contract, you ask me to wait. My decision won't change. Please inform your sales director. Goodbye. Without allowing for any response, I hung up the phone. Meanwhile, Kevin, along with 2 of his employees including his secretary, visited our company. We politely greeted them and led them to the reception room. At Mike's insistence, he joined a contract meeting. Kevin's secretary quickly spread out the files, which included documents in Hindi and Korean in addition to English. Given that the project involved companies from India and South Korea, it was not surprisingly with Hindi or Korean script.
In spite of the different languages spoken in our respective countries, it's important for us to try learning each other's languages. Maybe I should study a language myself, but having interpreters would ensure more accurate communication, right?
I think we'll have more opportunities to use other languages than English in future communications. It might be good to hire some staff who are proficient in these relations. We still have plenty of time to prepare. Let's get ready gradually.
Indeed, in today's world, you can text pen globally without knowing at least some other languages. I'll start looking for good talent right away. The role our company would play in this project was significant. I had to ensure its success.
So, are you agreed on an exclusive contract with us, Redwood Software?
Please, let's look forward to working together. We proceeded solemnly, and all of us signed a contract. Mike, eager to capture the moment, raised his smartphone. He took several photos of Kevin and me shaking hands, nodding in satisfaction.
This looks like it's going to be great work. Thank you.
Involvement in this project would undoubtedly transform Mike. I was becoming increasingly excited about the future. At that moment, my smartphone in my breast pocket rang. It was Ronald calling.
I heard you want to cancel the contract. Are you sure you'll be okay without us? Without our programming contracts, your company might struggle, you know.
Thank you for your concern, but we're fine. We've just signed a contract with Redwood Software. I would have preferred to hear your response first, but as usual, you seem too busy. Ronald suddenly sounded panicked.
A contract with Redwood Software. Why would you do something like that so suddenly?
I can't work being demeaned as poor anymore. It's a matter of my pride.
Oh.
Ronald choked on his words. Everything changed after that networking event. We had connections with your company since my father's time, but I won't continue to work with someone who treats us like poor people. Don't say it's convenient for you after all the insults.
It was just a little joke.
If that was a joke, it's an extremely poor taste. Goodbye then. Ronald was shouting something, but I hung up without caring. Kevin, looking anxious, asked me.
It seems they haven't accepted it yet. They might come here, you know.
They were quite upset, so they might indeed come. But don't worry. We have a contract with Redwood Software now. Whatever Sunrise Systems says, we won't accept it.
Are you sure we're okay?
I nodded emphatically. Finally convinced, Kevin and his team left. Just as they did, Ronald showed up, seeing me near the company's reception. He immediately said he was sorry.
Please, this is how it is. I apologize for any past rudeness. So please, cancel the contract with Redwood Software.
No matter what you say, it's too late now. Do you understand how much humiliation we've endured? We can't work with a prime contractor who looks down on us just because we're subcontractors. Ronald tried to approach me, but Mike violently brushed off his hand.
We'll get by fine on our own, even if we are poor. Goodbye.
Ronald opened his mouth in shock. dumbfounded. He may not have meant much by his earlier words, but this isn't something a mere sorry can fix. Not when we're not children. Seeing our resolute stance, he must have realized that nothing he could say would matter anymore. Ronald left, shoulders slumped. If only it had ended there. But there was more turmoil to come. There is another problematic figure from Sunrise Systems. It's Emily, the president's daughter. She showed up about an hour after Ronald left. The receptionist, clearly troubled by an unwelcome visitor, didn't know how to handle her.
My father is furious because of me. Please sign the contract again.
I told the troubled receptionist to step back and approached Emily. Mike said he doesn't want to work because of you. Isn't it true that you harassed him back when you were classmates?
But he never understood my feelings.
Such a childish retort. I shook my head in exasperation. Ronald and Emily, when will they outgrow their student mentality? As professionals, it's basic to respect time and not act selfishly or look down on others. Certainly, the incident at the networking event was a catalyst, but it was really a culmination of many small issues that led to this situation. Then, unbelievably, Emily also offered a sincere apology.
Please re-sign the contract. If not, I won't be allowed back home.
That sounds like a chance to live on your own, I thought. Born into a wealthy family and doted on as an only daughter, it's no wonder she might think too highly of herself. I bent down to Emily's eye level and spoke quietly. You're still young. Use this as an opportunity to change. Right now, no one will genuinely help you.
Can I really change?
Of course, you can. Once you do, you'll be able to mend your relationship with Mike honestly. Somehow, Emily was persuaded and left. If Emily's father truly wouldn't let her back into the house, that in itself could be an opportunity. It's his prerogative to spoil her, but every time he did, he might have been stealing from her the chance to grow. If Emily changes, those around her will surely change too. This is a crossroads in Emily's life. In my heart, I silently cheered her on. Due to our stepping away, Sunrise Systems, having lost a subcontractor like Henderson Industries, was in quite a bind. One of the factors that led us to withdraw was the poor attitude of Sunrise Systems towards subcontractors that became widely known in the industry, and there aren't many companies willing to accept them. This led to Ronald being fired, held responsible for the predicament. He seemed relieved to have escaped from the sinking ship. However, he found no new employment. As Sunrise Systems' situation worsened, so did Ronald's reputation, which spread far and wide. Eventually, Sunrise Systems defaulted and went bankrupt. Ronald, blamed as the primary culprit, was completely shunned by other companies and even ostracized by his family. His wife and child left him, and all he received was the divorce papers. Left alone, Ronald spent his days and nights at the casino, descending into a life of debauchery while accumulating debt. Now, the lively atmosphere he had when he was the sales director has completely disappeared from him. Ronald's future looked bleak. With the company's collapse, Emily's circumstances drastically changed. Her father, needing to pay off debts, sold their mansion, leaving them without a home. With no more leeway to pamper Emily, he told her to get a job and kicked her out. Now, Emily is living alone in a small apartment, working part-time at a corner store. Gone is the well-dressed, confidently striding Emily, replaced by a girl who doesn't bother with makeup and ties her hair back while working the cash register. Though she feels at rock bottom, this could be a good chance for her to change her life. 3 years have passed since then. Thanks to our contract with Redwood Software, our company has grown rapidly, and we are set to open branches in India and South Korea. Our projects are progressing well, with Mike being the main contributor. Previously solitary in his work, he's now looking out for his juniors. There was talk of him heading the India branch, but managerial duties aren't his strength. I hope he continues to excel in his areas of expertise. Recently, Mike has been going out of his way to buy his lunch at a distant corner store, which happens to be where Emily works.
I feel somewhat responsible for Emily's situation. Buying my lunch there is the least I can do.
Emily seems pleased by his visits. Perhaps she has finally let go of clinging to her past status. I decided to quietly observe how Emily and Mike, who are now on equal footing, will progress in the future. Amidst my busy days, I am content. While gazing at the slightly grown-up Mike with satisfaction, I envisioned the bright future of the company.
Hey Ryan, when you're doing sales, you always seem to be laughing it off. But now I get it. With just a high school dropout's brain, you can't really come up with any clever conversation, can you? Can't be helped, I guess. Because you're a high school dropout, huh? Sorry, my talk was too sophisticated for you to follow. My bad, I can't dumb it down to a dropout level.
I was invited by a client to a mixer. However, once the client knew I was a high school dropout, they started looking down on me in front of everyone. I decided it's better not to stir up trouble and just let it slide for now. Yay, well, that's how it goes, I said, and quickly downed my drink. But this seemed to upset the client even more.
What's your deal? Acting all high and mighty for a dropout. Do you know who's responsible for you even having a job?
I was stunned by their words. Does this person even understand their own position?
Such an attitude towards me, your client. Remember, I can easily crush your little company. If you don't like that, apologize pitifully for your insolence.
Empowered by alcohol, their true colors showed, and the other participants seemed taken aback by their arrogance. Then, either joking or serious, they leaned in to grab my head.
Come on, apologize to me pitifully.
Is he really going to make me apologize? Just when I was bracing myself, an unbelievable event unfolded before everyone's eyes. And that was the beginning of the end of the client's career. My name is Ryan. I'm 35 and work at an advertising agency. Not in newspapers or TV, but internet advertising. You know, a web ad agency. My main job is sales, working directly with clients, understanding their problems and budgets to offer the best solutions. Keeping up with demands are tough, but hearing glad we went with Ryan makes it all worth it. But I didn't start out here. In my senior year of high school, I lost my father in a car accident. After his death, my mom worked tirelessly to support me and my brother. Even then, it was tough to make ends meet. Mom worked multiple jobs, looking more and more exhausted each day. I couldn't stand the thought of losing her too. I have to save Mom and my brother. So, I dropped out of high school to work.
Ryan, I'm sorry you have to go through this.
It's okay, Mom. I wanted to work early anyway. Just take care of Joe. He loves studying and should go to college.
Ryan.
Mom hugged me. Her body was thinner and frailer than I thought. I had to save them. Once again, I made a firm commitment to save my mom and little brother. Finding a job as a dropout high school was hard. I finally landed a gig at a small IT firm. Their ad said no experience needed, education not a barrier. We want diverse talent. With no tech skills, becoming an engineer was tough. I almost gave up many times. Even as an IT newbie, far from knowing programming, I decided to first cram all the basic knowledge into my head. I used my days off to study vigorously, sparing no moment for sleep, using related books and basic IT technician exam guides. I would actively ask my coworkers about things I didn't understand, repeatedly clarifying my doubts. Thanks to such diligent effort and the strict guidance of my coworkers, I was able to grasp the basics of programming. But I learned something even more important. I used to think being an engineer was all about solitary work, glued to a computer, but it was not like that at all.
Brian, how's the progress?
Almost done with the code. I'll help you with your part next, boss.
Thanks. Please take care of this file.
I learned on the job that system development is all about teamwork, and communication is crucial to carry out projects. Besides technical skills, I actively honed my communication abilities to earn trust from clients and team members. Understanding the client's needs and proposing good ideas. When we developed a high-quality system, the whole team celebrated. My team started to outperform others. Continuing to provide quality work, our company's reputation grew, leading to more connections with major corporations. Chatting with executives, I often ended up sharing my background, telling them I'm a high school dropout who struggled to get here. I was surprised how many top executives from big companies understand and empathize, saying, "I feel you," or "It was hard getting here." They appreciated my work, considering the adversities I faced. Thanks to that, I was able to steadily increase dealings with major corporations, earning a great reputation in the company. On a busy yet fulfilling day at work, I was headhunted by another company. After much thought, I decided to switch jobs. I believed it was a place to utilize what I had learned fully. This move became a significant turning point in my life. The new company, also in IT, wasn't as big as the previous one yet, but its vibrancy and potential for growth excited me.
Brian, we're almost at Company A.
The voice brought me back to reality. Lost in thought again, I was in a taxi, on the way to meet a client.
Daydreaming?
The woman beside me, Emily, smiled amusingly. With her striking looks and tall, slender figure, she could be mistaken for a model by those who don't know her. She's a valuable coworker with extensive knowledge and experience in web advertising, often accompanying me on external visits. Sorry, I was zoning out. Just relieved about the recent deal getting finalized. I shouldn't be slacking, even on the job. Time to refocus.
It's okay, but it's great that the contract with Company F went through. The boss sounded really happy over the phone. He's glad he trusted you, Ryan.
No, I still have a long way to go, but I'll continue to do my best to be of help to everyone. We got out of the taxi, arriving at our second client meeting of the day. I sighed inwardly. We had a smooth transaction and a good relationship with major company A, but things changed recently with the new contact person. His name is Michael, and I find him somewhat difficult to deal with. Apparently an elite graduate, he often boasts about his education and evaluates others based on their academic credentials. which tends to prolong meetings unnecessarily. Although I wanted to get to the main topic, I knew better than to offend someone so prideful. I decided to just listen and nod along to his story with a smile. Just when the meeting topic was wrapping up, Michael suddenly mentioned,
"Hey, Ryan, I'm organizing a mixer next week. You should definitely come. It's a group dating, but we end up talking business most of the time. There will be folks from big corporations too, so it'll be a great networking event."
I was invited, but honestly, I didn't want to interact with Michael outside of work.
"Oh, and you should come too, Emily. I've been wanting to have a good chat with you at this opportunity,"
Michael said, grinning at Emily. It was unclear if he was trying to hide it or not, but his tone and gaze made his ulterior motives towards Emily quite obvious. Michael's fondness for mixers was well known, regularly hosting them and hitting on any woman he fancied. Thinking I couldn't let Emily attend such a gathering, I politely declined. "No, thanks, we're good." However, Michael replied with a look of disbelief.
"Ryan, you really don't get it, do you? These social drinking events are where you build good relationships for future business. Understand, you'll miss out on great contract opportunities like this."
He had a point, but I still wasn't keen on it. Surprisingly, Emily said, "I'll go. If I'm with Ryan, then..." I was shocked, while Michael looked pleased.
"Great. Emily gets it. So Ryan, you're in too. Looking forward to it."
And like that, Emily and I were somewhat coerced into attending Michael's group dating. In the taxi back, I checked with Emily to make sure she wasn't feeling pressured. "You can still back out if you want."
It's okay. Like Michael said, you never know where a business opportunity might be. It's a bit daunting to go alone, but I think I'll be fine if you're there with me.
Emily replied, smiling at me. Yay. I managed, feeling a sudden jolt, and quickly looked away. On the day of the group dating, we arrived at a fancy restaurant Michael had chosen. It was a stylish and serene place, and we were led to a private room where Michael and a few men and women were already seated. The women were all stunning, and the men were wearing expensive suits. It seemed like the guests were indeed from top-tier companies. Michael quickly became the center of attention.
"I know the owner of this restaurant. He's also a grad from my alma mater, so we have great conversations."
The women laughed in agreement. Certainly, it's easier when there's no educational gap. The men seemed to think agreeing with Michael was the right move, complimenting him. Pleased, Michael boasted more.
"Every time I mention my university at meetings, there are high expectations. But, being as outstanding as I am, I always exceed them."
Emily and I exchanged glances, thinking, here we go again. Just another session of Michael's bragging. We decided to enjoy our meals and have a casual chat instead. Seemingly annoyed by our disinterest, Michael suddenly asked me,
"By the way, Ryan, which college did you graduate from?"
I answered honestly, not hiding anything. I didn't go to college.
"High school graduate?"
No, due to some circumstances, I dropped out of high school and started working. Then I moved to my current company. There was a moment of silence. Then Michael burst out laughing.
"You're joking, right? Ryan is a high school dropout. Lower educated than anyone here. In this day and age, a dropout, that's like a living fossil. That's funny.
His attitude towards me visibly changed, looking down on me. The other participants were whispering and chuckling uncomfortably.
I can't believe our business partner employs a high school dropout. This could affect our company's reputation.
As the alcohol started affecting Michael, he became more talkative and heated up.
Ryan, you're always smiling and calm during sales, but I get it now. You're just covering up for your lack of confidence in sales talk, right? With just a high school dropout's brain, you can't really come up with any smart talk, can you? I always felt something was lacking. You just nod along to whatever I say. I see, my talk was too complex for you to follow. Sorry about that. Can't dumb it down to a dropout level. Ha ha.
Yeah, you're right. I was playing the role of a foil to him, but I decided it was better not to stir up trouble and just let it slide. The men who initially chuckled at Michael's remarks gradually began to feel uneasy as his insults escalated. However, there was one person glaring sharply at Michael. It was Emily. I tried to signal to her with my eyes, "I'm fine, don't worry about me," but it was futile. Noticing Emily's gaze, Michael, misinterpreting it, smirked and turned to her.
Emily, it must be hard for you, working with someone with such a low education. It's tough, right? Having to work with someone so dumb, even for work.
No, there are many people who excel regardless of their education, and I respect Ryan for his work.
Come on, let's not be formal today. Hey, why don't you quit your current job and work for me? With my recommendation, it's possible right away. Our company could offer you double, no, 5 times your current salary. We're a top-tier company, after all. How about it? It's a great offer, right?
The other women were envious.
So unfair. I want to work for Michael's company too.
Well, I'd love that too. Working at a big company like Company A would be something to brag about.
But Emily's attitude was distinctly different. Her tone was calm but firm, her eyebrows knitted tightly as she spoke decisively.
I absolutely love my current company and take great pride in working here. So, I'll have to decline your offer. Thank you.
Michael, clearly displeased with her response, clicked his tongue. He scoffed and then spitefully remarked,
Pity. Well, women are just for decoration in the workplace anyway. If you change your mind, let me know. A beauty like you is always welcome.
I couldn't ignore that insulting comment. Michael, please take back what you just said. Emily is a highly competent employee in our company. Not many can match her attention to clients' needs. This response infuriated Michael.
What do you think you're doing? Talking back to me, a mere high school dropout. You should remember who's feeding you.
He looked down on me, raising his voice. I was astounded by his words. Did he really understand his own position?
What? I can cancel the contract with your company if you want.
What did you say?
You dare to talk back to me, your client. If you upset me, I can easily crush your company. If you don't want that, then bow down and apologize for your insolence.
I just listened silently to his tirade. Actually, I was too stunned to respond. The other participants seemed taken aback by his blatant arrogance, likely fueled by alcohol. Then, either joking or serious, He leaned forward and grabbed my head.
Come on, apologize to me pitifully.
Is he really going to make me apologize? Just then, it happened. Splash! Everyone, including me, gasped at the unexpected sight. Emily had thrown a glass of water on Michael.
You've had too much to drink, Michael. Maybe you should cool down a bit.
Her voice was icy, though her face was smiling. Michael was stunned, dripping with water, unable to comprehend what had just happened. As he realized, he began to tremble with rage.
What did you do, foolish woman?
Michael, more furious than ever, shouted.
Your sales guy is a dull dropout, and your female employee is untrained. Your company is finished. I'm canceling our contract right here.
I responded calmly. Understood. We will send you the details for the contract termination later. Caught off guard by my response, he snorted in a mocking manner.
What are you talking about? Someone like you can't possibly have a say in a deal with a major company like ours.
It seemed to him that I was just another salesperson without any real authority. As I was wondering how to explain,
Ryan is the next president of our company, so he certainly has the authority to make decisions.
Emily intervened in our conversation. This revelation shocked Michael and the other participants, who found it hard to believe.
What? A low-educated high school dropout like him becoming the next president? That's unbelievable. You need to come up with a better joke than that.
This is no joke. I thought it was common knowledge among the presidents and executives of our contract partners. Let's go back a bit. The reason I joined this company was that my younger brother asked me to join his firm. Actually, the company I'm currently working at is an IT advertising firm founded by my brother. After graduating from college, my brother joined a small business venture and then, 3 years later, established his own venture. His company grew rapidly in a short time, gaining some recognition in the industry. To further expand, he thought it was necessary to connect with major companies and approached me.
You have connections with many top-tier companies like M&K, right? I want you to be the bridge between our company and these major firms.
Besides my network, my brother valued my communication skills and wanted my help in improving the communication abilities of the employees, both internally and externally. His plan was to eventually entrust me with the company as the next president. Of course, I initially refused, thinking it was too much for me, but my brother was persistent.
This company was actually founded with the desire to work together with you. I was able to go to college because you sacrificed so much for me. I really wanted to repay you.
Moved by my brother's sincere feelings, I decided to join his company and give it my all. Since then, I've been leveraging my connections to bridge my brother's company with major corporations.
Oh, Ryan, we're happy to do business with you. We feel secure dealing with you.
I was delighted to hear this from many of our partners. Realizing my background, Michael looked a bit pale but still hadn't grasped the situation. He glared at me fiercely and raised his voice.
So what? If you lose a deal with a big company like ours, it's your loss, right?
I inwardly smiled at his lack of understanding of his own position. Not really. It's more of a loss for you, isn't it? Recently, Your president Alex mentioned that the deal we are working on is a major project crucial for your company's future. Shocked and clearly rattled by this, I continued, "We were eager to help, but it's unfortunate. I'll report the suspension of our deal to my superiors. Indeed, losing one contract would not greatly impact our company, especially since we had just secured a year-long continuous order with a major firm like F. For Michael's company, the stakes were much higher. Nevertheless, his own blunder would turn everything to nothing, making him bear a heavy responsibility."
It can't be happening to me.
Michael finally realized the gravity of the situation, but still couldn't accept his mistake, trembling with anger.
"And you, Emily, how dare you throw water on me? Do you think that's okay? That's a serious assault. I could sue your company."
He turned to Emily, boasting as if he had won. But she remained resolute.
Oh, weren't you the one who tried to make Ryan apologize first? Everyone here sue that.
Indeed, everyone nodded in agreement.
And if you're thinking of suing, I won't hesitate to sue you for sexual harassment.
The room buzzed in confusion. I was startled, hearing this for the first time. Michael, now red-faced and shaking with rage, yelled,
"It doesn't make sense. Where's the evidence? That's a baseless accusation."
Ignoring his breathless fury, Emily calmly took out her smartphone.
I have all the evidence right here.
The voice recorder played Michael's voice unmistakably. Prepositions for dates, insistent invitations to dinners, and at worst, hints of overnight stays. Indisputable proof of sexual harassment was laid bare. At a loss for words, Michael finally conceded, shoulders slumped in defeat. To him, I shared my insights gained through experience. No matter the size of the company, I've found that the most successful companies are led by sincere people. They remain humble in any situation. On the contrary, people like you who boast and look down on others are often insecure and small-minded. Michael's face twisted as if he had bitten into a bitter bug in response to my words. By then, the intoxication of the others had completely faded, and they were all intently listening to my story with nods of "I see." Afterward, nobody paid any more attention to Michael's words. Instead, everyone gathered around me, eager to hear more about my experiences. When I noticed, Michael had disappeared. On the way home, the slightly chilled breeze felt pleasant. Emily and I decided to walk to get a taxi. With a refreshed expression, she said,
That was quite liberating.
But deep down, something was bothering me. I had to ask Emily why she hadn't confided in me about Michael's harassment. "Emily, why didn't you talk to me about Michael?" I felt a quiet shock and a sense of inadequacy at not having known anything, despite spending so much time together. "You could rely on me more, you know. Am I that unreliable?" I muttered half-jokingly. After a moment of seeming confusion, she blushed and said shyly,
I didn't want to trouble you, and I thought you, being so kind, would take me off the account to avoid discomfort for me. I didn't want to lose our time together, I guess.
Her unexpected response made my heart skip a beat. "There's no trouble at all. Please don't hesitate to talk to me. No, it's on me to become a supervisor who everyone can rely on," I said, somewhat hastily to hide my embarrassment. Then, looking into my eyes with a playful smile,
You know, Ryan, you've been a dependable boss to me since the first time we met.
she whispered as if sharing a secret. Typically, I composed, couldn't help but blush at her words. The next day, I reported the incident with Michael to my brother, the president of our company. He understood immediately and seemed to be making calls to Company A. That evening, President Alex of Company A came in person, visibly upset, to apologize. As expected, they wanted to retract the suspension of our contract. Apparently, Michael had been a problem in their company for a while, with reports of sexual and verbal harassment, and they were already discussing his dismissal. Due to the recent uproar, he was suddenly transferred to a subcontracting company, essentially a demotion. President Alex, whom my brother and I respected for his character, requested one more chance, promising a sincere approach with a new representative. We decided to let bygones be bygones and continued the business relationship. 3 years later, I formally took over as president from my brother. Thanks to the team's efforts, our company continued to grow and prosper. Rumor had it that Michael couldn't adapt to his new workplace and resigned soon after. Apparently, his bad reputation was quite well known, and he received cold stares from those around him, making his work environment quite uncomfortable. His subsequent job search also didn't go well, and now he's reportedly working part-time at a convenience store. It seems that a sudden resignation from a major corporation led people to suspect he had caused some scandal in his previous job, resulting in difficulties getting hired elsewhere. He ended up working part-time at a convenience store, a shadow of his former self, occasionally getting scolded by the manager. As for me, Emily and I officially started dating after that night and eventually got married, becoming partners in both life and work. As a still new president, I always keep in mind the importance of sincerity. Regardless of position or environment, education is just one part of life experience and not a measure of a person. No matter how highly educated, no one follows a person lacking sincerity. What matters is the way a person is. I aim to continue learning without arrogance, boldly taking on challenges, and leading my team as such a leader.
Hey, do you guys really think that's okay? Sales is all about numbers, damn it. Seriously, what the hell are you all doing? Especially, you there, Parker. I mean, come on, you've only 5 contracts this month.
I'm sorry, but I closed 25 contracts last month.
You're really incompetent, you know that. Seriously, a high school graduate is a whole different level. High school graduates are completely useless nowadays. Who even drops out of high school these days?
Well, that's because there were circumstances that I had to.
I don't care about your reasons. You were a bad boy or too dumb to even go to college, right? You're really embarrassing, you know that.
Damn. I'm the one getting a severe scolding from the boss right now. I'm John Parker. I'm 35 years old. Last month, I closed a lot of contracts, but this month I haven't been able to close many. Our company's sales department is tough, with a boss who's like a strict drill sergeant, so it's always tense. The boss's shouts are always flying around, and when he gets irritated, he tears up sheets of copy paper. It's like an evil spirit possesses him. No, maybe he's actually a demon, so maybe we should get an exorcist. Anyway, when the boss's mood sours, he immediately takes it out on everyone. He was pretty harsh on me. As the boss Nelson said, I'm a high school graduate. Even though I only graduated from high school, there's a reason for it, and it's not like I was a bad boy or too dumb to get into college. I was rather serious and quiet, and I even had good grades. The simple reason I couldn't go to college was that my family was extremely poor. The level of poverty in my family was such that we were no longer living below the welfare level. We weren't actually receiving welfare, but watching programs about welfare on TV. I thought, whoa, we're better off than them. We were a family of 5, living with my parents and 3 children. But since it was difficult to have 3 proper meals a day, the children filled their stomachs with school lunches. Our meals at home were simple, just something like soup and bread. It feels like I've gone back several decades. There was a class at school where we experienced meals from the past. We ate a dish made of wheat flour and sweet potato vines, boiled together. Everyone said it wasn't tasty, but for me, it was a feast. From that moment on, I realized my family was different from everyone else's. Due to poverty, I couldn't even dream of going to college, so I had no choice but to work after graduating from high school. My parents aren't very well enough, so I can't let them work anymore. And I wanted to give my younger siblings a better life, so I wasn't ashamed to work after high school. But now that I've become a working adult, everyone around me at least has a college degree. And especially in our company, everyone has a college degree. In other words, I was the only high school graduate. Even though everyone else doesn't have good sales performance, the boss doesn't lecture them for 3 hours. It's just me who gets taken to a separate room and lectured for 3 hours. I thought if I could use that time for work, it would be more efficient, but if I said that, he'd get angry, so I kept quiet. One day, it was decided that our company's president would retire. It was a sudden announcement, so everyone was surprised. The president seemed to have been suffering from a lung disease for some time, and it appears he judged that he could no longer work physically. He did seem to struggle when passing by, and since he's getting up there in age, he probably wants to take it easy. The president will turn 70 next year. At that age, he would retire and relax on the porch or do some gardening in the yard for a change of pace. After his retirement was decided, a party was held for the inauguration of the new president. No one knows who the new president is yet. We'll find out at the venue, and everyone seems excited.
Hey, what if the new boss is me? There's a chance, right? I'm talented, and it'd be a waste not to make me boss. I'm like a 1 in 1,000 level genius. I might even get promoted to president. Well, can't help it, I'm a genius,
Yeah, I see.
But it'll be a problem, huh? Then who will take over sales department? There aren't many people who can work like me, And there are problem children too, like you, Parker.
Me? Am I the problem?
Of course you are. You're always giving me headaches. I don't want to complain every single day. You're the one who makes me irritated. You know, my blood pressure has gone up because of you.
Even if you say that. The boss was quite overweight, so he thought it was because of that his blood pressure was high. It's not like I'm the one irritating him. Besides, the boss indulges in sweets, rich foods, spicy things, and so on. So it's no wonder his blood pressure is high. He might end up with heart failure or even diabetes. It wouldn't be surprising. I wondered why everything had to be blamed on me. And it's somewhat pitiful how he half-jokingly thinks he'll be promoted to president. The boss thinks he's competent at his job, but from my perspective, he's not at all. I have no idea why he became the boss in the first place. What he does is occasionally take me to a separate room and cram me in for about 3 hours, then go out to get contracts, talk on the phone with young employees who are out in the field, rip up sheets of copy paper wastefully, and then polish his shoes and fix his hair. Let's leave aside the shoe polishing. They say business starts from the ground up, and having dirty shoes gives off an unclean impression. But it was comical to me that he was combing his scanty hair. The boss is only 40 years old, but his head is balding. He is looking desperately in the hand mirror, trying to hide his baldness with his few hairs. He says to me, "Hey, you have too little hair. You're in your 30s, but dang, that's bad. But I just have thin hair." It seems like my hair texture hasn't changed much since birth. It's still fine like a baby's hair. So my hair looks less frequent and softer, so it's flat. The boss says it makes me look bald. Then what about you? I thought, but I can say that with my mouth torn open. If I did, it might blow up our company, like Mount Vesuvius erupted and destroyed Pompeii. I genuinely felt that way. The inauguration party for the president is on the first Sunday of next month. We are renting a huge hall in the city for it. All the employees will gather there, but my boss has been half-jokingly talking about what he'll do when he becomes the new president ever since then. I'll definitely put you at ease. That's absolutely not going to happen. I wanted to say, but if I did, Mount Vesuvius in his head would definitely erupt. No matter what, I thought it was best to just endure it, thinking that if I pushed back, I'd lose. On the day of the new president's inauguration party, I was dressed to the best suit, and I headed from home to the hall. Since I had plenty of time, I killed time at a Starbucks near the venue. I had spread out some documents, so I looked like a capable businessman. Sometimes I'd think it was painful to see people trying to act cool with their MacBook at Starbucks, but maybe I was one of them. However, on that day in particular, I was filled with a strange sense of excitement. As it was getting late, I left Starbucks and headed to the hall. Everyone was gathered, and I met some people who had been transferred to other departments after a long time. Those who had been moved to the planning department said they were getting a much better environment than in sales, and I thought they must have all disliked Nelson. And I wandered around the hall looking for my seat, but I couldn't find it. There should have been a chair with a paper attached to the back with my name on it, so I could easily find it, but there was no chair with my name on it. I thought it might be a mistake and kept looking, but since there was none, someone must have forgotten after all. As I was at a loss, my boss, Nelson, came over. Nelson looked at me with a grin.
You're looking for your seat, aren't you? But there's no seat for you.
Wait, hold on. What do you mean by that?
I'm telling you, there's no seat for you. We don't need someone with a low education level here. Everyone is a college graduate, so having a high school graduate like you would be weird, right? You're out of place with your low education, so go home.
Oh, I see. Got it. Then I'll leave.
Since you're nothing to do at home, go to the office and do some work, and make sure to clean everyone's desks.
The boss laughed out loud, looking pleased with himself. I couldn't understand why he found it so amusing. I can't understand the mentality of finding joy in belittling others to this extent, but, oh well. The mind of a nasty person is too messy and crazy for the average person to understand. And in the first place, trying to understand or empathize with them would be wrong. I've tried to understand the boss several times before and even attempted to compromise, but I've decided that I can't get along with him anymore. From here on, it's based on what I heard from Roberts in the sales department. The inauguration party for the new president started, and the executive vice president made a speech first. Then, each department head gave a speech. Nelson, the head of the sales department, tried to boast about himself by telling blatant lies. For example, he claimed to have secured contracts brought in by other young employees as if he had obtained them himself, trying to curry favor with the higher-ups. He also claimed to be concerned about the mental health of the employees and said he was even counseling them, portraying himself as a good boss. But that was all a lie. We were always grilled and shouted at by Nelson. As for me, I was taken to a separate room for 3 hours, forced to bow my head, and subjected to a full course of yelling. The sales department folks apparently listened with a sense of resignation. However, when the executive vice president said, "Finally, let's have the new president take the stage," it fell silent. No matter how much time passed, the new president didn't show up. So, the executive vice president loudly called out the new president's name.
President Sean. Where's President Sean Parker?
Huh?
President Parker, where on earth have you gone? You were supposed to announce your presidency in front of everyone today, but you could be late. Nelson, do you know anything?
Well.
President Parker is the new president. He was in the sales department, right? He's the new president.
Oh, I sent him home.
Huh?
Well, because he's poorly educated. I told him to leave. I didn't think he was the new president.
Nelson looked pale. Roberts saw sweat dripping from Nelson's head, making his few remaining strands of hair soaked. Furthermore, he was trembling and seemed to be bracing himself for being shouted at by the executive vice president. As expected, the executive vice president was furious and confronted Nelson.
What on earth did you do? He's the new president, and if he's not here, this party is meaningless.
Well,
First of all, what do you mean by telling him to leave because he's poorly educated? Are you only able to judge people based on their education?
No, that's not it.
However, that sales department folks snitched on the executive vice president about how Nelson always criticized and bullied me for my education. And then the executive vice president was furious.
I see. So, Nelson, you are someone who can only see people based on their education.
No, that's not it.
Do you really think high school graduates are at the bottom?
Well, to be honest, sometimes I do think they're at the bottom. I mean, high school graduates are either dumb or delinquents, right?
Is that so? So, did you think I was at the bottom too?
What?
Actually, I'm also a high school graduate. My family was poor, so I couldn't afford to go to college. Maybe I could have gone to college if I had tried various means, but I didn't want to go to college if it meant causing trouble or worry for my parents.
I really respect you, Executive Vice President. You have a great record coming from the sales department, and you're even implementing advanced initiatives for safety education within the company. I think you're a very admirable person. So,
Then, how am I different from President Parker?
it's nothing.
I also learned for the first time at that moment that the executive vice president was also a high school graduate. I had always assumed he was a college graduate. When we had a hobby conversation before, he said he liked reading, but he said he liked genres of books that I couldn't understand. It is a philosophy book. He mentioned Sartre and Foucault, but I had no idea what he was talking about. He explained a little, but it was too difficult, and I mostly forgot it. So I had just assumed he was a smart person who graduated from the literature department or something. But it seems the executive vice president's family was also quite poor, and he couldn't go to a college either. I reflected on the fact that I had been judging people based on preconceptions. I wasn't necessarily belittling people based on preconceptions, but it's true that it's important to see through to the essence of people. Especially if I were to become the new president, it would be even more crucial. Nevertheless, I doubt Nelson ever imagined I would become the new president. Upon learning that I was the one who would become the new president, it seemed like everyone was looking at him with suspicion. Roberts from the sales department seemed to be smirking as he watched. By the way, Roberts is a college graduate, but he's a good guy who gets along well with me. It's not like everyone in the sales department hated me just because I only graduated from high school. If anything, everyone in the sales department seemed to dislike Nelson. That's because, as I mentioned earlier, he's like a strict drill sergeant. Among them, he was particularly tough on me, but Roberts was the one who got yelled at after me, so we comforted each other at the bar. Nelson ended up being looked at with suspicion by everyone. He never thought things would turn out like this just because he insulted me and sent me away for being poorly educated. The party ended abruptly, and it seems the executive vice president went home angry. I grinned as I listened to the phone call from Roberts. Oh, I see. Thanks. Nelson probably never expected things to turn out like this.
Anyway, you are the president. I can't even speak casually anymore. Gotta use honorifics.
If it's a private conversation, you can use casual language. After all, we hang out together on holidays, right?
Thanks, but now it's about company matters. so I'll use honorifics from now on. How could you be the new president? Sure, the number of contracts before was impressive, but Nelson said it was terrible the other day.
Then I'll speak honorifically too. Oh, that thing. Well, there's a reason for it.
What's the reason? Did something sketchy happen in the deal?
No way, it's not like that. Actually, I secured a contract with NASA.
What? NASA?
Yes, you know how we develop and sell parts for airplanes. Right. Well, that NASA finally said they wanted our company's parts. When Nelson first received an inquiry email, he thought it was a prank. He apparently thought there was no way the real NASA would inquire. So, he was planning to just ignore it. But I was convinced it was the real NASA. So, I secretly went ahead with the business.
Wait, was it for that reason that you went on a business trip the other day?
Yeah, Nelson didn't know about that. He happened to be on a business trip at the same time. So, there's no way he could have known that I was consulting in NASA.
But, could you understand the technical terms of science? I mean, no offense, but you're only graduated from high school, right?
Oh, actually, my parents were that kind of scientist.
Huh?
Well, my father and mother specialize in the space field.
What? Seriously? I didn't know that. Oh, sorry, I forgot to use honorifics.
No, let's just talk normally. It's bothersome.
Right. Nobody is listening anyway. Hey, why didn't you tell me that before?
Nah, nobody bothers to say what their parents do, right? You don't say your parents are nurses or movie directors unless somebody asks you.
Yo, I guess you're right.
Well, you know, since I was a kid, hearing about space science and reading books helped.
That's awesome. Then it's not strange at all for you to become the new president. You can understand space science and even contract with NASA. That's amazing. But did Nelson not know about that?
Oh yeah, Nelson also overlooked me securing the contract with NASA. And it's a $500 million contract.
Nelson is seriously incompetent. He's always saying we're incompetent, but he's the real incompetent one.
Well, besides that, I've been working on the manual. I was asked by the executive vice president to do it, because he knew I could understand space science.
Why did the executive vice president know?
Well, actually, I was surprised to find out after joining the company, but it seems the executive vice president was taught English by my grandpa.
Huh? Really?
Oh, the managing director came from Japan when he was little, and he couldn't speak English, so my grandfather taught him English. So the managing director had heard a lot about my parents.
I see.
Well, if you just look at my name, you'll see I'm a normal American, but the managing director knew I was their child from the beginning. So I was helping the managing director with his scientific manuals and systems.
Yep, exactly. It's amazing, right? Congratulations. Hey, will you still hang out with me off duty? Now that you're the president, we can't interact as equals anymore. Right?
What are you talking about? You and I are friends, aren't we? There might be a hierarchy at work, but as long as Roberts doesn't mind, let's hang out like we used to. After all, neither of us is popular.
Don't say sad things. Well, I haven't even thought about getting married yet.
With that, I finished the phone call with my good friend, Roberts. Roberts seems like a mischievous guy, but he often gets scolded by Nelson for making mistakes. But he's cheerful and friendly, and he's a good guy who's kind to me. Roberts was just amazed when he found out about the negotiations with NASA that I succeeded in, and about my background. His good point is that he doesn't envy and then resent people. From now on at the company, Roberts and I will have a boss-subordinate relationship, but since we get along well, as long as he's okay with it, I plan to have him as a playmate during off hours. Anyway, I don't have a girlfriend and I'm bored. Plus, now that I've become the CEO, there ain't no time to be finding a girlfriend. Things have gotten so busy to the point where I barely have time to breathe. At the party, besides me and the X6, nobody knew who was gonna be the president until that day, but everyone would be shocked to find out it was me. Especially Nelson, since he thought I was just some incompetent, uneducated guy. But I've actually been handling various tasks, and even nailed that NASA deal. Since the previous president resigned due to illness, we discussed who should take over, and I'm genuinely happy it was me. I never imagined becoming the president, especially considering I had been made to bow my head for 3 hours while being yelled at. So, I kicked off the new regime. The deal with NASA made the news, and our sales skyrocketed even more. But in return, orders came pouring in from all over, and production and sales couldn't keep up. Blaming Nelson, who caused many people to quit, the executive vice president said that such an intimidating and morally bankrupt guy should be demoted. Sure, the sales department gets about 15 newbies every year, but only about 3 brainwashed ones stick around after a year. So yeah, maybe I'm brainwashed too, but it means only those with a tough mentality can survive in the sales department. But that ain't good for the future. So, I demoted Nelson to a regular employee. He was crying and begging for forgiveness, but neither me nor anyone else was gonna forgive him.
I can't do this. Being demoted to a regular employee now, we've got a mortgage, car loan, and kids' education fees to pay.
Even if you say that, we can't just ignore the complaints from the sales department.
Yeah, the boss is right. Look, there are even this many anonymous postcards addressed to the president. These are from the suggestion box we have installed in the office.
Damn, what am I gonna do now? My life might as well be over.
Well then, I'm ordering you to work in Kansas State. They're short-staffed there, so get going.
What?
You know, Kansas State, it is a country town where the plains go all the way.
Wait a minute. Why is it so rural? Who cares if it's in the boonies?
Well, it's not just about working in Kansas State. You don't just do sales in that town. You have to go to neighboring states and cities.
No way, I hate this.
Nelson was screaming like he'd lost his mind. But considering how unfairly he treated us, he should just suck it up and deal with it. Well, in the end, he reluctantly accepted the gig in Kansas State. It's in the middle of nowhere, more like a tiny office than a branch. Just recently, 2 female sales reps at that branch quit for child care and elder care reasons, so he had to go and fill in the gaps. With Nelson's gone, the sales department's been running smoothly, and our performance has improved even more. but we need to hire more people to keep up with production and sales. So I decided to hold an orientation to attract some top-notch talent. Of course, by top-notch, I don't mean just book smarts. It could be someone with a certification or even someone who's great at communication, even without a degree. We had folks show up for the orientation, not just young folks, but also young foreigners who want to work in the US. They studied English and culture at schools and colleges back home, so they probably know about American companies. Some jobs can be done with simple tasks, even if their English is not very good. I suggested to the young man, who could not speak English very well, that he should work in the factory. Turns out, he came from a poor country and has been hopping from job to job. He had a work visa and had been working in the US, but he got fired for not being able to use honorifics or write proper sentences. When I showed him the English manual I made, he read it with great interest. He was really interested and said he'd love to work here. I wanted to hire him, so I told him to come for the job interview. Then, several other folks showed up for our hiring test. It was pretty sudden, so I know HR must have been scrambling, but later on, I'll treat everyone to a fancy dinner at a top-notch restaurant. I begged them. HR folks were like, "Yay, the boss is so generous, and we'll do our best," and they scrambled to get everything ready for the test. There was even a young guy there who struggled with English. He looked a bit nervous and kept looking around. He came to apply for a position in the department that handles light assembly work at the factory, so we gave him a simple assembly test. Turns out, he put together the parts in no time flat. When I asked him in English, he said he used to work in a factory back in his home country and told me in broken English. In the English writing test, he scored full marks. Since his homeland also has English as an official language, it's natural for him to be proficient in English. With manuals available, even if he struggles with English, he should be able to handle his duties somehow. During the interview, I asked questions in English, and he responded with a lot of enthusiasm. So, I decided to hire him. In the end, we ended up hiring 500 people across all departments. We don't usually conduct such large-scale hiring event for new graduates, but if we don't do this, our future operations will suffer. The 500 newly hired individuals include second career professionals, mid-career hires, and foreigners, but they all have some skills or aspirations. I trust them and have started delegating tasks to them, one after another. Of course, my workload has inevitably increased, and I find myself working tirelessly, day and night. However, thanks to that, our company was able to secure contracts with renowned companies worldwide.
I'm glad we made you the president. You're truly remarkable, President Parker.
Oh, it's just a stroke of luck.
But you know, luck is part of ability, right? And everyone we hired is so hardworking and talented. We need to work even harder ourselves from now on.
You're right. We need to set a good example. At that moment, Robert stashed over. I froze, thinking there might be some trouble, but that wasn't the case.
Listen, we've received an order from the U.S. Department of Defense.
Huh.
What did you say?
It's a whopping $400 million.
Way to go, Roberts. That's amazing.
Isn't that incredible? What did you do?
Well, remember those materials President Parker made for NASA? I tweaked them a bit and made them for the US Department of Defense. And I happened to have a chance to go drinking with someone from the US Department of Defense, so I asked if they'd like to see a presentation, and they took the bait.
But you weren't good at scientific terms, were you?
Well, I wanted to be like President Parker, so I studied hard. Actually, I recently started dating a scientist girlfriend, and she's been teaching me a lot of knowledge.
What?
Sorry, President. I went ahead and took the initiative.
I see. Weren't President Parker and Roberts quite close? You two used to hang out a lot during their time in the sales department.
Yes, and we were scolded together too. We were the dynamic duo, scolded by the former our boss. But anyway, Roberts, that's not good. You can't just take unilateral actions.
Well, I went to a matchmaking event and met someone. We're actually considering marriage, so President, please come to the wedding. I'll invite you.
Oh, are you even thinking about marriage? It was a bit bitter that Roberts ran me through. But seeing him so happy, I decided to forgive him. Still, to secure a contract from the U.S. Department of Defense, Roberts must be quite a remarkable individual, just like me. I thought back to how he used to get scolded by Nelson, just as much as I did. Nelson really didn't have an eye for talent. Sure, he may have been a bit of a show-off, but with careful guidance, he's someone who can do good work. Following Roberts' success, the sales department's performance skyrocketed. On one of my days off, I was told there was someone Roberts wanted me to meet and was brought to a cafe. Since it's our day off, we're speaking casually. So, who's the person you wanted me to meet today?
Well, you'll see when you meet her.
Well, okay. The person who appeared next was Roberts' girlfriend and her friend. She was stunningly beautiful, and I felt my face flush. I never imagined there could be such a beauty in this world.
She's interested. After I told her about you, I described you as a cool young president.
Hey, what are you saying without asking me first?
All right, it's a double date today.
And so, I was involuntarily thrust into a double date. To be honest, the person brought to me is my type, a perfect match. I secretly hope she'll become my girlfriend to enrich my personal life even more. If that happens, my life will be even more vibrant.